Spring 1206, banks of the Onon River. Dawn bleeds pale over the steppe as horsehair standards ripple. A man rises before the gathered tribes. One word will bind a nation, or break it. The kurultai gathers in a ring as old as memory. Chiefs dismount. Oaths are sworn with fermented mare's milk and iron. Temujin stands in a plain coat, not a king's robe. The choice is stark: endless feud or a single law. He does not shout. He waits. The wind speaks for him. Before this morning there was a boy. He was born on the high grass, likely in 1162, to Yesugei of the Borjigin. The steppe didn't shelter him. It tested him. When Yesugei died, poisoned on a return from a tribal visit, the clan abandoned the widow and children. Winter made their ribs into counting sticks. Temujin learned to snare fish with wire and to repay humiliation with memory. Exile forged him faster than privilege ever could. Rival tribes saw prey. The Taichiud seized him, cinched a wooden collar around his neck, and staked his future into the dirt. Night fell. He waited. A sympathetic guard loosened a knot. Temujin ran into black water and breathless reeds, the collar heavy as a verdict, and lived. A lesson set like a barb. Patience first, then thunder. He chose allies with care. He married Börte, anchor and flame, but raiders from the Merkit abducted her. Temujin did not frame it as tragedy. He framed it as a coalition. He sought the aid of Toghrul Khan of the Kerit and his blood brother Jamukha. They rode. They cut the Merkit camp open like cloth. Börte returned, and the coalition learned what his loyalty meant. It also learned the price of his ambition. Jamukha wanted the old ways. Temujin wanted a new order. Their friendship cracked along the grain of the world. War stabilized it. Temujin lost early battles, counted every error, adapted. He promoted men for merit, not blood. He rewarded courage and punished theft from the poor harshly. When Jamukha finally fell, the message traveled faster than any rider. Allegiance would be honored, but the era of unaccountable nobles was ending. In 1206, the tribes did the improbable. They chose unity. They gave Temujin a title that even the wind seemed to carry with care: Genghis Khan. From that morning, he supervised an empire as if he were stitching a saddle. Tight, useful, never ornamental. He built systems: tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, Arban, Zun, Mingan, Tumen, so a commander could whisper and a whole army would pivot. He split power so no noble controlled only his bloodkin. He collected engineers and scribes as if they were treasure, because they were. He formalized the Yassa, an evolving code that punished betrayal, protected messengers, and demanded discipline. The Mongol composite bow bit at 200 paces. The cavalry could dissolve, reform, and strike before dust settled. Feigned retreats lured enemies into empty space. Then space closed. He began close to home. Tangut Western Jia felt the pressure first. Then the Jin across the Great Wall learned the speed of hooves and the patience of sieges. Genghis adopted Chinese siegecraft, pulled stone throwers on carts, used smoke and drums to map movements. He set up the Yam, relay stations across thousands of miles, spare horses and warm tents waiting for every courier. The steppe became a nerve system. The caravan from Otrar should have passed as one more thread through the loom of trade. In 1218, a governor of the Khwarezmian Empire seized it, alleging spies, and killed the merchants. Then the Shah executed Genghis's envoys. That insult made war not just likely. It made it certain. But certainty is not strategy. Genghis split his Tumens and poured them like water into the cracks, across deserts, along river lines, around fortresses no longer safe. He let rumor march first. Samarkand and Bukhara learned how a city surrenders to men who never stop moving. At Bukhara's heart, in the great mosque, he did not perform a ritual of conquest. He performed a lesson in substitution. Your rulers took your wealth, now we take their place. He spared artisans, demanded taxes instead of chaos, punished rebellion with terrifying clarity. Cruelty and order walked side by side. Which one waited for you depended on the path you chose. Watch the tactics. At Samarkand, a false retreat uncorked the defenders. Pursuers broke formation and were swallowed. Engineers undermined walls, while horse archers stitched the horizon with arrows. Spies opened gates. Allied local forces judged the wind and changed cloaks. Logistics is the unsung poet here. Each rider with 3 to 5 remounts, saddles stuffed with dried curd, distances eaten at a rhythm that broke slower empires. How do you fight an army that is everywhere and nowhere? Victories multiplied. The Shah fled, chased not by a single army but by a design that refused to be predictable. Subutai and Jebe, the empire's most dangerous problem solvers, crossed the Caucasus as if walking a tightrope in a storm. They defeated coalitions in the mountains, then probed the Russ's principalities. At the Kalka River, Mongol patience turned a retreat into a trap that closed like a gate. And still the core moved, recalibrated, returned. This expansion rode with ideas, not only steel. Religious tolerance was policy, not posture. Buddhist, Muslim, Nestorian Christian, and shamanist clerics found tax exemptions, so long as they did not hoard wealth or resist the law. The Uyghur script became the empire's written spine. Translators mapped tongues to tax rolls. Census takers counted both yurt and city. Roads hardened under hooves. The Pax Mongolica, not peace but predictability flanked by deterrence, pushed caravans farther and faster. Goods moved, so did scholars, so did news. Cities that resisted and then rebelled learned what exemplary punishment meant. Death tolls from some campaigns have been estimated in the millions. Estimates, not certainties, shaped by chronicles and silence. The steppe offered no apology. Genghis measured justice by consequence. Steal a horse, die, protect a messenger, prosper. What is the moral geometry of an age when survival is the first theorem? Midway through the 1220s, as suns fanned across frontiers, Genghis returned east to address unfinished business with Western Shia. The man who had become the axis of a spinning world was aging, but his habits did not. He inspected. He punished corruption. He refined his inheritance plan so the empire would not tear itself apart the moment his shadow lifted. Ogedai, not the eldest, would be the great Khan. The Ulus, appanages, were mapped so brothers could hold power without breaking the circle. Enjoying the deep dive? Please like and subscribe for more cinematic history. His death came in 1227 during the Western Shia campaign. The details are fog: illness, fall from a horse, battle wound. The funeral was motion, then secrecy. A procession cut a path to an unmarked grave. The earth swallowed the story, and the story stayed swallowed. The steppe preferred a legend without a map, yet the machine he built did not stall. Under Ogedai, the Mongols returned to the Jin, and then pivoted farther west. Subutai outlined Europe like a cartographer with steel. Kiev was sacked, Hungary shattered at Mohi, and only a recalled council in Karakorum slowed the hoofbeat. Under successors, the empire became a constellation: the Golden Horde on the steppes of the west, the Ilkhanate in Persia, the Chagatai Khanate along the caravan spine, the Yuan dynasty in China rising under Kublai. One will, many centers. Cooperation and competition braided into policy. Trade intensified. Paper, gunpowder knowledge, printing methods, and techniques moved along lanes that felt safer than they had in centuries. Diplomatic passports, paisa, turned messengers into needles that threaded frontiers. But transmission cut both ways. Ideas, art, plague, and ambition all rode the same roads. The Mongol story is less a statue than a weather system. It reshapes whatever it touches. Was Genghis a destroyer or a designer? The contradiction is not a flaw in the narrative. It is the narrative. He starved in childhood and then engineered abundance, ruthless to enemies, attentive to couriers and artisans. He flattened aristocracies that had treated commoners as air, and replaced them with rank by performance. He shattered cities, then demanded tax systems that could feed them. He taught the steppe to think in systems. Remember the collar at his neck and the reed-choked river. The boy who waited in the dark learned to slow his breath and listen for footsteps. The man who stood at the onon waited for the chiefs to fall silent. He listened for the moment when a world could turn. He did not rush it. Then he spoke and the steppe answered. Centuries later, we still ride the edges of his decisions. Borders, trade routes, tax law bones, and the global habit of moving information quickly because delay is danger. We inherit both the order and the ashes. History refuses to choose for us. Return to that dawn. The river runs like hammered silver. The circle of tribes tightens, a banner snaps, a horse stamps. Temujin lifts his head. The word rises and carries. Genghis Khan. The wind takes it. The steppe remembers. If this changed how you see the steppe, like and subscribe to join us for the next legend.